Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Adam. I'll just say I pay a lot of more attention than I ever have in the past to the pronunciation of my name, because a couple weeks ago I was doing a press conference related to some work we're doing on the Colorado River and the drought, and it was sort of a hybrid conference, and there was reporters in the room and some who called in, and this one reporter from Arizona, I guess, called in, and he goes, yeah, this is a question for Deputy Secretary Beaudreau or whatever. And so Adam, you nailed it. Really appreciate that. And just off the top, I want to say how much I truly appreciate Adam and Offshore Wind California. We were talking a little bit earlier today about a similar conference about, I guess it was 2019 in San Francisco, and it was at that conference that Offshore Wind California was announced as an entity, and that Adam was willing to take it on and become the leader. And it is amazing in the span of less than 5 years how far offshore wind and everything that comes along with it has advanced in the Pacific, and that is in large part due to the efforts of everybody in this room, but truly and especially to the efforts of Adam. And I'm just profoundly grateful that he threw his hat in the ring back then, and that he's stuck with it, and there is so much to show for his efforts. So thank you, and it is wonderful to be here with all of you. The other person I want to just sort of thank and acknowledge right off the top is Liz Klein and all of my colleagues at the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. I am just incredibly proud of the work that they've done here in the Pacific region in recent years that has provided the impetus and the momentum and the concrete set of entitlements necessary to really develop the conversation in the way that it has in this conference over the last few days, when we're really talking about the issues around permitting and community benefits and what the real opportunities are, and how do we bring all of the necessary parties and the stakeholders to the table. And that is exactly the set of conversations that we want to be having. There's obviously very tough issues. That's why they're worthwhile conversations to have. But that's where we wanted to be. And the fact that BOEM staff had leaned in as hard as they did to help sort out all of the issues necessary to hold an incredibly successful lease sale in the Pacific is just remarkable, and I couldn't be prouder of my friends and colleagues at the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. So thank you to all of you. I want to spend a little bit of time today talking about and reaffirming the role that offshore wind and floating offshore wind in particular have for the Biden administration's top set of priorities, dealing with some of the most critical issues facing the United States today, including climate, including reimagining the economy in a way that is more equitable, and regaining America's competitive edge on the global stage. This gets called a lot of different things. One sort of phrase that encaptures, I think, that whole suite of priorities that we have in the administration is our Investing in America agenda. And offshore wind is key to that agenda. We're laser focused on building up our nation's domestic offshore wind economy and galvanizing around the President's Investing in America agenda and all of the goals we have for our clean energy future. At the core of this work are the historic laws like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. Together, these historic laws and funding opportunities are making investments that we need to build up America's offshore wind economy while making sure that our energy transition is fair, equitable, and work forward. Already, we're making rapid progress towards reaching our goal to deploy 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030 and 15 gigawatts of floating offshore wind by 2035. And we're meeting these milestones essential to seeing through our goals. These milestones include approving the nation's first 2 commercial-scale offshore wind projects and holding 3 lease sales offshore New York and New Jersey, the biggest offshore energy lease sale for any source in United States history, the Carolinas, and of course, what brings us together here off of California. These are accomplishments that require building a coalition around bringing floating offshore wind to the forefront of our energy portfolio. Just last February, the Biden-Harris administration held the first ever floating offshore wind shot summit, specifically focused on supporting and deploying offshore wind, floating offshore wind technology. In partnership with the Departments of Energy, Commerce, and Transportation, the Interior Department launched this initiative with a very straightforward goal: to reduce the cost of floating offshore wind energy by over 70% by 2035, and to invest in the technologies needed to achieve this cost reduction and deployment goals. Central to all of this is, and central to achieving our Investing in America agenda, is permitting. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the emphasis that we at the Interior Department and truly across the entire administration are placing on breaking through on permitting critical infrastructure, including renewable energy generation. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, there is $1 billion devoted to expediting permitting across a host of sectors, including offshore wind. And the reason that money is there is so that we can realize the benefits related to climate, jobs, manufacturing, our global competitiveness, and national security through getting projects permitted and built. Earlier today, and you may have seen, the White House put out a fact sheet specifically about our permitting priorities and agenda. And Senior Advisor to the President of the United States, John Podesta, gave a speech and a talk about these specific issues. And he highlighted a number of objectives that we have related to permitting in the United States, and specifically called out offshore wind. So what the fact sheet and Podesta highlighted are the need to accelerate the deployment of transmission, both onshore and offshore. There are some very daunting studies out there about the need for this country to dramatically accelerate the pace at which we're adding transmission capacity to our nation's grid if we're going to truly realize the benefits of the investments that we've made in a clean energy economy through bill and IRA. And this is a huge motivator and something that I and others at the Interior Department spend a tremendous amount of our time working with Department of Energy, Agriculture, the entire federal family to think through how do we, in a very aggressive way, increase the transmission capacity we have for clean energy deployment, both onshore and offshore, not by a little bit, but by orders of magnitude. And that's going to be a major effort, and it carries with it all of the challenges that everyone in this room appreciates. And so part of the reason why I've been looking forward to talking with all of you is our need to redouble our efforts around stakeholder engagement and thoughtful permitting across a host of issues, including offshore transmission. The second priority that the fact sheet and the White House have highlighted are the need to accelerate clean energy project permitting, including specifically offshore wind. In fact, unlike any other sector in the economy that's among our priorities, offshore wind gets specifically called out as an area that will benefit from increased focus and discipline around the permitting process. This is a conversation that I know has been a major focus throughout this conference, as well as the work that all of you do. There's also work happening on the Hill about offshore wind permitting legislation, which, as an administration, there is a lot that we believe Congress can do in this space. We still have to do permitting in a way that is responsible and protects all of our shared values on environmental stewardship and community engagement. But within that, there are lots of opportunities to improve and make more efficient our permitting process. And so we look forward to working with Congress and taking ideas forward. Even absent legislation, however, this is one of the highest priorities that we have. It's something that I'm on a regular basis, I'll put it that way, engaged with the White House and with our partners, both within the federal family, but at the state and local level as well. In California and the Pacific Offshore Wind opportunity is a great example of that, where all of these moving parts really do need to be put into harmony and synchronized in order to make the complex federal permitting process sync up well, be complementary to, and make efficient the state and local process as well. And we're all in and committed to that endeavor. Mr. Podesta also talked about critical minerals, and there is, for obvious reasons to folks in this room, a massive tie-in to renewable energy and offshore wind in particular. We see, just as everyone sees, pinch points in the supply chain and the need for critical minerals and materials like copper to be well-sourced and reliably sourced. And so again, from an Interior Department perspective, we are also focused on the need for responsible mining activity in this country, and Congress has a huge role to play in this arena as well, and we look forward to partnering with Congress and figuring out how to modernize the mining laws in the United States, which, as some of you may know, are literally from the 1870s. And so the policy priorities of the Grant administration were somewhat different than some of the critical issues facing the country now. And we look forward to, as I said, working with Congress, but also across the administration to look for ways to improve our ability to access and source minerals that are critical to the full deployment of renewable energy in this country. And the Interior Department will be issuing a report along these lines in the coming weeks, specifically outlining measures that we can take to source critical minerals. And then finally, the White House has put an emphasis on community redevelopment and revitalization, focused on the clean energy transition. And so while we're all in, and everybody in this room is focused on the benefits of clean energy generation, one of the overwhelming opportunities that we have in front of us is to facilitate a just and equitable energy transition. And that means making investments in communities that have borne the brunt of the climate crisis and have borne the legacy of our dependence on fossil fuels. And that will require focused effort, creativity, and huge amounts of stakeholder engagement and building of trust. And I know that's something that many of you have spent a lot of time working on and thinking about. But if this energy transition and the offshore wind industry in particular are to succeed, we need to demonstrate to the American people that it really is, that they really do have skin in the game, that this effort really will provide benefits and connection and participation with local communities. And that is therefore front and center on the way we have to think about permitting in this country. Last point that ties into that, industry has a indispensable role in all of this. And so I welcome and believe strongly in accountability and discipline in the permitting process. And as federal agencies, that is quite literally our job. But there is also the role of the industry. And for those of you I've talked with over the years, I always emphasize the critical role that proactive community engagement and leadership from project developers plays in the permitting process and in winning the trust of communities and social license to operate. There is just absolutely no substitute for it. And so my mantra, whenever we sit down with project developers or are working through permitting issues, is you really have to go the extra mile with the communities that you're seeking to work among. And you really have to go the extra mile with the federal permitting agencies, including the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They are there to get projects reviewed to produce good results, including good environmental results. But like any process, the more a developer can do to anticipate problems, address them, and actively and aggressively work through the process, the better it's going to go and help us meet all of the objectives that we have. And so my last thought as I conclude here is, again, to tie it all together around the public interest. There is a reason why the Biden-Harris administration, the Interior Department, believes so strongly in renewable energy and offshore wind in particular. It is because of the promise it holds for the public's interest. And that includes addressing climate, that includes providing real jobs, high-paying jobs, union jobs, that includes genuine opportunities for domestic manufacturing and supply chain, that includes national security prerogatives around reliable energy and moving away from fossil fuels and everything that it carries with it. And so because we operate in the public interest through our policy priorities to develop clean energy, I feel personally an enormous set of responsibilities around ensuring the durability of this program. And that is a big part of the reason why we're leaning as hard as we are into accelerating permitting and accelerating the community engagement work. Because at the end of the day, when these projects are real, when contracts are out, when community benefits are tangible, and folks believe in them, that's how political durability happens. And that's how things that are in the public's interest, so clearly in the public's interest, sustain over political cycles. So that's all, a bit of cheerleading from me, of course, but also a call, a genuine call, an urgent call to all of you to really focus on what is necessary to demonstrate the benefits of offshore wind to communities, to deal with conflict, and to work through all of those issues. And we'll be there every step of the way with you. So thanks so much. I know I'm probably standing in between you and some beers or happy hour that everybody richly deserves. So thanks for sticking it out and giving me a chance to talk with all of you. Really appreciate it.